At first, people said she was guarded. Not cold, not distant, just careful. They noticed the pauses before she answered personal questions. The way she observed before she spoke. The way she didn't rush into closeness, even when it was offered easily. Some interpreted it as fear. And what they couldn't see was that her caution wasn't built on imagination. It was built on memory. She had lived long enough to recognize patterns. And once you recognize something clearly, it's difficult to unsee it. Her name was Mary. She hadn't always been this way. There was a time when she believed that giving the benefit of the doubt was a virtue that would always be rewarded. When she assumed that intentions mattered more than the outcomes. When she thought consistency would naturally follow promises. Back then, she leaned in quickly. She trusted words at face value. She explained herself generously, even when no explanation was owed. And each time, the story unfolded the same way, just with different faces. At first, everything felt aligned. Attentive conversations, shared plans, reassurance delivered confidently and often. Then came the settled shifts, the missed follow-through that was framed as misunderstanding, the emotional availability that slowly narrowed, the boundaries that were respected until they became inconvenient. She learned that not all harm announces itself loudly. Sometimes it arrives softly through repetition. Not once, not twice, but often enough that the body remembers before the mind wants to accept it. The hardest part wasn't the disappointment. It was realizing how often she had been encouraged to doubt her own perception. You're reading too much into it. They didn't mean it that way. You just have to be more patient. So she tried. She stayed longer than she should have. Explained more than necessary. Adjusted herself in ways that felt small at first, but cumulative over time. Until one day, she realized she wasn't reacting to the present moment anymore. She was responding to familiarity. Not fear, but recognition. That's when something changed. Not suddenly, not overnight, quietly. She stopped rushing to justify her discomfort. Stopped overriding her instincts for the sake of being agreeable. Stop pretending that repeated behavior was accidental. She didn't harden. She clarified. She listened closely, not just to what people said, but to what stayed consistent when words faded. She paid attention to how accountability was handled, to how respect showed up under pressure, to how patterns revealed themselves over time. And when something felt familiar in the wrong way, she didn't argue with herself anymore. She stepped back. People noticed. Some called it distance. Others called it being defensive. A few suggested she was closing herself off. But what they mistook for walls was actually discernment. She wasn't avoiding connection. She was choosing sustainability. She wasn't refusing closeness. She was refusing cycles. And for the first time, she wasn't negotiating with herself about whether her experiences were valid. They were. There's a quiet strength in realizing that caution doesn't always come from damage. Sometimes it comes from growth, from knowing how much emotional energy it takes to rebuild after ignoring your own signals, from understanding the cost of giving access to people who repeat the same harm in different language. She didn't need to relive old lessons to prove she was open-hearted. She didn't need to sacrifice her peace to appear understanding. She had learned enough. And learning doesn't make you closed. It makes you intentional. Over time, the noise softened. The right people didn't push. They didn't rush. They didn't require her to abandon herself for the sake of comfort. They showed consistency without needing reminders. They respected boundaries without questioning motives. They understood that trust isn't owed, it's built. And slowly, without force, something eased. Not because she ignored the past, but because she honored what it taught her. There's a difference between being afraid and being aware. Awareness comes from experience, from noticing what repeats, from recognizing when something familiar no longer deserves access to you. You don't have to revisit old situations to prove your growth. You don't have to explain your boundaries to make them legitimate. You don't have to betray your own clarity to make others comfortable. Sometimes what looks like distance is actually self-respect. Sometimes what looks like hesitation is wisdom. And sometimes choosing differently is the most honest thing you can do. You are allowed to learn. You are allowed to remember. You are allowed to choose peace over repetition. Together, let's move from doubt to power, one story at a time.